Good evening. And actually I'm going to take the opposite view, which is the fact that we're gathering tonight is not a sign of a problem, but it is a sign of the opportunity to engage with the kind of democracy that we want in Greater Manchester. I'm not going to argue that Devo Manc is perfect, but I am going to argue that it radically improves the system that we had before the signing of the devolution agreement. And I'm going to argue that we have the potential to make something really good here. We have the chance to design the democracy that we want in Greater Manchester. Now, we've heard already the argument that the whole idea is flawed from the outset because of a lack of a public mandate for having an elected mayor. And you may have come here tonight disappointed by the lack of a referendum, but I'm going to argue that you can't place the blame for that on the Devo Manc agreement. The democracy that delivered that change in the way things are run here, the democracy that's responsible for the lack of a referendum is actually our parliamentary democracy. Because it's quite clear the Conservative Party went to the polls in May with a policy in their manifesto that they would offer devolution to areas that agreed to have an elected mayor. The other parties didn't support that. And so the election of a majority Conservative government, it is actually the democracy behind the lack of a referendum. And if you feel there should have been a referendum, then your beef really is with the idea of electing majority governments who fulfil their manifesto promises. And I also don't buy the argument that the local political elites stitched up a deal. These were politicians from the 10 authorities who stood for election in their wards, who were selected by their peers because they were seen as leaders, and they took a very difficult decision, that the chance to take control of decision-making on policy issues that affect the whole region, that are really important on employment, transport, housing, that it was so important that they would agree to having an elected mayor. And in doing that, they did something very rare and very brave for politicians. They agreed to give up power, because having an elected mayor will remove power from them. It will remove their mandate and their authority. And I think that's truly democratic. So my argument is going to be that Devo Manc, far from being flawed, is better than the situation before and is going to lead to more improvements. And that we can contribute to designing those improvements if we look forward and not back to the lack of a referendum. So when we think back to before the devolution agreement, the 10 leaders of the Greater Manchester Combined Authority took decisions in closed rooms, behind closed doors, in private, without consultation, without input from the public or from the elected councillors. Now, with the extra funding devolved from Whitehall, the case for having a clearly identifiable politician to hold to account for those new policy decisions, it is undeniable. We don't lose the chance to elect our local politicians, but we gain the chance to elect a mayor. And that mayor will have to set out a programme and campaign for our votes right across the region. So this is an extension of democracy. Politicians want to be elected and re-elected. And so they are responsive and open to pressure and engaging with their electorate. And the candidates that will run for mayor next May will campaign for votes across the area, from Wigan to Stockport, from Trafford to Oldham. They want our votes. And that responsiveness, that vote-seeking behaviour, will open up the possibility for democratic engagement. And not just at the election, but between elections too, throughout the term of office. But to take advantage of that responsiveness, that vote-seeking, we citizens, we need more than just the chance to vote at elections. We need transparency so we know what's going on. We need the chance to engage between elections so we're consulted about policies that matter to us. And we need the chance to check and challenge the Mayor and the Cabinet when they're taking decisions, not wait till the election to vote them out. And we can see those improvements happening already with the appointment of the interim Mayor. So those meetings of the GMCA that used to be private, they're webcast now. There is a widespread public consultation on how to set the spatial plan. There are discussions about how to have public question times across the region. There's experimentation to use social media to reach out to diverse communities, to different audiences. Now, I think there's parts of Devo Manc and the Devo Manc democracy that need improving still. The Mayor's Cabinet, as Ariana said, it's made up of 10 leaders of the local authorities. They've got strong veto powers that will protect the interests of all of the authorities, but 8 of the 10 leaders are white men. That doesn't reflect the diversity of the population in Greater Manchester. And I know that the need to engage with communities, the different communities of interest, is on the agenda at the moment to ensure that different voices have a seat at the table. And the need to get more diverse representation around the cabinet table is also being discussed. And it's also important, and it's being considered, the arrangements to improve scrutiny of the work of the Mayor and the Cabinet and draw in that expertise of backbench councillors from the 10 authorities. So this is an exciting time in Greater Manchester. These parts of the design of Devo Manc democracy are being developed at the moment, and we have the chance to get involved. We have the chance to be in those debates and to make the arrangements better than we had before, better than Greater London, better than the design initially. So when you weigh up the gains we've already had, the gains that there are to come and the potential, then I cannot agree with the fact that Devo Manc is a flawed democracy. It's a developing democracy, it's a democracy with potential, and it's a democracy that we can help design if we look forward and not back.